Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with another mail call for Liberty Hill Comics. The channel is about sharing my passion and over 40 years experience, comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. In today's mail call, we're opening a nice Golden Age book I purchased off the app Shortboxed. It's from immediately after World War II, just as life was starting to return to normal for Americans and we were engaged in the war recovery effort. Let's see. This is double boxed, which is nice. Let's get that out of the way. At this time in the American comic book industry, immediately post-World War II, there's a lot going on, and American interests are changing. There's a big shift culturally, and the comic book companies were trying to figure out what their role was in the new American society. So comic books from that period can actually have influences from earlier and later and can be quite interesting. I want to say how much I appreciate all the viewers that are joining me today. Thank you, sincerely. This is why I create the content I create, so that we can interact, have some sense of community. I especially appreciate those of you that are engaging in that community and taking the time to like the videos and subscribe to the channel and commenting on the videos. I especially appreciate, because I like interacting with my fellow comic book collectors, mavens, aficionados. That's the funnest part for me. So keep it up. I appreciate it. I appreciate your patience in getting to the bottom of this. This is beautifully packaged up. Reached me apparently safely. We'll know in a moment here. So I very much appreciate the seller. Let's take this out of this beautiful extra bag that it's in. The seller, of course, is anonymous, but I do want to thank him or her for that beautiful packaging and for this lovely book. Wow, that is beautiful. Stunning. Golden Age Superman. Well, what is it and why do we care? This is Superman number 37 in CGC 7.5 with off-white to white pages. It's the November-December 1945 issue featuring a Prankster cover and story. The cover art is by Wayne Boring, who started with Siegel and Schuster in their studio in 1937 prior to the publication of the first Superman story, and ghost penciled for Joe Shuster for years before finally being credited for his work when Siegel and Schuster split from National Comics, which is what DC Comics was called back in the day. Ultimately, Wayne Boring defined DC's house style for Superman from the late 40s through the entire decade of the 50s, before Curt Swan took over as their definitive Superman artist. The golden age of comic books can be organized into three periods. The pre-war period, when everything was new and fresh and there was a lot of competing themes, highly variable styles and quality levels. The wartime period, with many patriotic and even jingoistic and racist depictions of the Axis warfighters. and the post-war period in which the stories moved away from patriotism and superheroes for the most part and toward other genres including science fiction and horror. This book is significant for being a Golden Age comic book from the transition period between the second and third periods of the Golden Age. This book would have been written and drawn just as World War II came to an end. It's also significant for surviving in very high grade at a time when wartime paper drives were still a thing. It's remarkable that a nearly 80-year-old comic be this well preserved. Look at this beauty. It doesn't appear to have ever been cleaned or pressed. I can see some soiling along this back, maybe some light foxing in here. So this looks like just a survivor. The Prankster has a pretty excellent first appearance in Action Comics number 31, cover dated August 1942. Unlike many Golden Age antagonists, he gets a great first cover appearance to coincide with his first appearance, and he's immediately used routinely in both Action Comics and Superman. In fact, this book is published a mere 3 years and 3 months after the Prankster's first appearance, and as far as I can tell, it's his 9th overall appearance. So between Action Comics and Superman's own title, he was appearing approximately every 4 months during the first few years as a regular member of Superman's Rogues Gallery. And he was perfect for the whimsical period of National Comics immediately post-war and into the early and middle Silver Age, so he has many appearances as a Superman antagonist during the 40s, 50s, and 60s. The Prankster doesn't have as many prominent appearances in the grim and gritty 70s and 80s, but is eventually reimagined as a more menacing character, and is still used routinely as an antagonist by DC today, not only in the comics, but in a number of live-action projects. This issue has 4 stories. It opens with The Dangerous Dream, a 12-page story involving a police hero who retires from the force because he's lost his nerve. He confides in Clark Kent that he's gone yella, and Superman intervenes in helping him get his nerve back and rejoin the force. The art, plot, and dialogue are all of the high quality that National Comics was known for at the time, but the story is otherwise sort of forgettable. The second story is our Prankster story. It's 11 pages entitled Pranks for Profit. Although the Prankster isn't superpowered, he's the closest we get to a supervillain in this issue of Superman. The story opens with Clark commenting on an article Lois wrote for the Daily Planet on practical jokers, providing well-known examples from Metropolis's high society. We also learn that the Prankster has escaped prison and that Lois's story inspires him to pursue a new prank-driven racket. He plans to meet each of the high society pranksters Lois wrote about and prank them and their friends out of their wealth. He first seeks out Alvin Arnold and plots a practical joke for an upcoming party at Alvin's penthouse. Lois and Clark are in attendance, and when the prank is sprung, Superman is caught in his Clark Kent guise, and by the time he can slip free without arousing suspicion for the secret identity, the prankster is made off with everyone's valuables. The following day, the prankster visits Dexter Beams and passes himself off as a wild animal trainer who can help Dexter prank a blowhard exotic game hunter. Dexter is throwing a high society birthday party for Lois, so again, she and Clark will be in attendance. As a side gag, when Clark stops in a store to buy a nice compact for Lois on the occasion of her birthday, the prankster sees this as a great opportunity to prank Clark, who has written disparaging newspaper reports about him, and manages to swap Clark's gift with a prank exploding powder compact at the party. The prankster's main prank is sprung when it's revealed that he can't control at all the deadly animals he brought to display at the party. He offers a hunting rifle to the patrons if they will give him all of their valuables. Again, caught as Clark Kent and not able to confront the prankster directly for fear of exposing his dual identity, Clark must slip away and summon Superman, and by the time he's dealt with the wild animals, the prankster has seemingly made good his escape. But Superman uses his telescopic vision to find the prankster's getaway vehicle and decides to play a few pranks of his own on him before taking him down to the precinct. There, he switches to Clark Kent and gets the scoop on the prankster's capture. But Lois shows up, very upset about Clark's birthday gift, and the prankster, although headed to the slammer, gets the last laugh. While this book was written a few months after the end of the conflicts of World War II, the war recovery effort was still a big deal, and there are two references to wartime salvage and recycling efforts. One is this small ad placed at the bottom of one of the text stories, indicating that although the war was over, waste paper was still a weapon of war. The next story is a 5-page story starring Lois Lane in her own adventure with only oblique reference to Superman and no Superman appearance. A forerunner to Lois having her own title, I suppose. I do very much like the art, which, according to the Grand Comics database, is by Pete Riss, although the story is credited to Jerry and Joe. The last story is another whimsical 12-page story titled The Rubbish Robbers, about a sunken ship laden with gold that has a sole survivor, and antics that ensue when he attempts to solicit partners in a recovery effort. The map he drew to the ship's whereabouts is stolen by some ne'er-do-wells, and by a twist of fortune ends up in the city dump, where only Superman can find it using a burst of super speed to sort through all the paper at the dump. It's mentioned here that due to the value of paper for the war effort, all scrap paper is separated from the garbage before processing at the dump. This story is another example with beautiful, clean lines, a solid plot, and dialogue that moves the story along. It's no wonder this period is known as the golden age of comic books. Superman number 37 is a pretty rare book, especially in high grade. There are only 119 universal copies in the CGC census, with a median grade of only 5.5. This 7.5 ranks at the 13th percentile. A CGC 7.5 has a fair market value today of $725 plus shipping and taxes, but with a 12-month trailing average of $1,530, which is the all-time record high for the book in this grade. So this book is discounted right now by about 50% to its record high price set less than a year ago. I paid $650 plus shipping with no taxes for this gem by grabbing it from Shortboxed as the deal of the day. Remember, essentially all of the online price guides, including Go Collect, which is what I subscribe to, list prices before shipping and taxes. So, if you pay fair market value for a book in a tax-free transaction, you are getting it at a discount to fair market value. Here in Texas, the sales tax is over 8%, so that can really add up on an expensive comic book. At well over half off the record price paid for this book, I believe I got a great price for a high-grade, classic Golden Age comic. This is a great entry price for long-term appreciation, and the fair market value of this comic should outpace inflation by a good margin going forward. I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. I feel very fortunate and humbled to be the steward of such a rare, high-grade Golden Age comic book, and realize being able to own this piece of history is an embarrassment of riches that few individuals get to enjoy. So thanks for sharing it with me. I hope you enjoyed this video on this comic featuring an early cover appearance of one of Superman's classic rogues. Anyone else a fan of Golden Age Superman or the Prankster? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, happy hunting and take care of one another.